This is your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Tuesday, August 28. So glad you can join us. I'm Frenella Wedderburn. Pay up your car insurance or risk paying a heavy fine or even spending time in jail. Motorists who run afoul of the law will have to pay a fine of $5,000, spend 12 months in jail or both. That's up from $1,000 or 6 months in prison. Today, Transport and Works Minister Dr. William Duguid rolled out the tough new measures as he led off debate on the Road Traffic Act today. He's expecting that the stiff penalties will encourage motorists to pay up.
In the past, people, I believe the fine was only $1,000. And people would make the assumption that if their insurance was $1,200 and they could get away for 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years without paying the insurance, that would have been $1,200, $2,400, or $3,600. And that number was greater than the fine itself. So people were prepared to take the risk and not pay insurance because if they got caught, the fine was less than the amount that they would have saved, even although illegally, if they had not paid the insurance for that period of time. So what we decided is that the fine obviously had to come in line with the cost of insurance.
The law also now requires vehicle owners to display a sticker on the top right-hand corner of their license plate, which would indicate that the insurance has been paid. Government is also cracking down on drivers who operate commercial vehicles under a private vehicle license. Commercial vehicles will now be required to use a blue and white license number plate denoted by the letter C to indicate that it is commercial. Meanwhile, opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley tells the government it can't afford the spiraling costs of funding public transport and it may be time to leave the management of the sector to private players. Atherley told the House that while government should regulate the sector and make provisions for the elderly and school children, private players should be allowed to develop an efficient public transportation system.
It might be more prudent if we would look to put more of the responsibility for providing public transport on the private providers of transport in a context where we meaningfully create an environment for them in which there's ease for acquiring buses, and I mean bigger buses. I do not know why we feel we have to continue a situation where the state has to buy all these big buses when there are people who are involved in transport who perhaps could be encouraged to dispose of the smaller buses, put them out of use or put them to use for some other purpose, and invest in larger buses facilitated by the state.
Work is continuing apace on Sandal Beaches property at the former Almond Beach village in St. Peter, and General Manager of the Sandals Barbados and Sandals Royal Properties, Ferry Zevinger, says they won't leave businesses and residents in Spitestown in the dark about the progress of the project.
We're working on the waterworks, the beachfront, protecting the beach, similar that we did here, cultivating coral, so we can make sure that the reef in front of the hotel and in the area is healthy, can be snorkeled. The feedback that I got from the town hall, that it was appreciated. It's a good opportunity that we have to provide. And as we move forward, we learn as a company. When we built here, we could have done it a little bit better, a little bit more organized by communicating in group with the residents. And the approach now with the Beaches project is exactly that. And we will continue to do that because you have to keep the residents, the businesses around there updated of what is coming. And, you know, new questions always will come up.
He added that if all goes according to plan, infrastructural work on the Beaches Hotel will start in January next year.
We had a big sale for our team members because Almond was an operating resort with all the inventory. So last week we gave our team members that work here and the team members of Almond the first option to buy. That is done, and I believe the ad already run in the newspaper that it goes open to public now, so we're selling all the assets out. Once that is done by January 2019, the construction will start. So we start demolishing. Once it's demolished, we can start building the new facilities.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
In regional news, HIV is not a death sentence. That's the message from the annual Caribbean Cytometry and Analytical Society meeting, which focuses on the epidemic. According to the UNAIDS 2018 Global Update, an estimated 310,000 people have been living with HIV in the Caribbean at the end of 2017. 73% of these know their status. CCAS Chairman Professor Clive Landis says while the region has recorded much success in tackling the virus, he says the public is still not aware that successful treatment can also reduce sexual transmission.
HIV has long ceased to be a death sentence. You can live very well with HIV, but the key point is that when someone is on treatment with HIV, then they also become non-infectious because the HIV is suppressed in their body and cannot be transmitted. And we know that because in the Eastern Caribbean and in parts of the Caribbean, we've been very successful at suppressing HIV in women's bodies who are pregnant, and they cannot transmit the virus to their own child. So there are now 7 countries in the Caribbean which have been certified by the World Health Organization for having eliminated HIV transmission from pregnant mothers to their children.
He is also appealing for an end to the stigma and discrimination, urging more people to come forward and get tested.
If we put up barriers in our community, usually out of fear because we're so worried about this as being a death sentence, but it really isn't, then persons won't feel comfortable enough to be treated or even come forward for testing. And so the whole effort will fail. So I think people need to recalibrate and say, look, we don't have to be so afraid of this disease anymore, and we need to encourage people to seek testing and treatment.
And finally, Aretha Franklin's body lay in repose today while her soaring voice poured out from loudspeakers outside a Detroit museum, stirring fans to sway and sing along and others to weep as they lined up for a last glimpse of the Queen of Soul. Franklin died last week at the age of 76 from pancreatic cancer in Detroit, where she began her career as a child singing gospel in the New Bethel Baptist Church Choir.
When I saw them carrying that casket in, I just got chills. I got so nervous and so weak that I couldn't even take the picture. It was just awesome.
Never you mind exercise. Come on. Say we got lots of time. Hey, come on.
She's done many things here in the city to help other people. She didn't forget where she came from. And I love a person like that.
Did you get us sisters here?
And on that note, we come to the end of our news update. But for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on iZoomi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.